eyes and think of the most uplifting melody that you have ever heard. Now, imagine a rooster running for its life from a lawnmower. That second sound, that was me, in grade 3 with a plastic recorder. Hi, I'm Ishanvi, and today I'll be talking about my musical pivot, about how I went from squeaky recorder to being the loudest person in the room, and why quitting might have been the smartest move I ever made. When the recorder gave up on me, I moved on to the pianica. Pianica, essentially, is an instrument, playing which requires the lung capacity of a diver. I realized two things very, very quickly. Firstly, I do not have that kind of lung capacity, and secondly, trying to look cool whilst blowing air into a plastic tube might just be impossible for me. So my next obvious stop was at the keyboard, and I thought, this is it. There's no annoying breath control, no tubes, it's just buttons. I mean, how hard can it possibly be? Right? Until came in the sheet music. Whilst my friends were reading it like it was their first language, I felt like I was handed the Mandarin paper. When I studied Hindi, I left it midway. Again. I left every single one of those instruments midway. At 14, quitting feels like a crime. Whether it's a sport that we hate or an elective subject that tears us apart, we're supposed to just keep at it. We live in a world that is obsessed with prodigies. I mean, we all love a good story of a child who picks up a tennis racket at age 3 and then grows up to win a Wimbledon. But here's a secret. There's a difference in between giving up because something's hard and moving on because it does not resonate with your soul. Nowadays, we almost believe that giving up is a sign that there's a lack of grit to make it. But my journey showed me that grit without direction is just an endless walk down a dead-end street. My silence in the pianica wasn't a lack of talent. It was just the wrong expression for my energy. And then, one day, I sat behind the drums. Suddenly, all that noise in my head, it started to make sense. I didn't need to find a melody. I was the foundation. I realized that all of that time gone into the recorder, the pianica, and whatnot wasn't wasted. It was a filter. It took me to a version of music that I felt in my chest instead of just in my head. And at that, I understood that there are dozens of different subjects at school, hundreds of different hobbies, and at least 1,000 different career paths, all for a reason. If someone's struggling in physics but loses track of time in the art room, or if someone's the loudest leader on the football field but the quietest person in English, that's their rhythm. We forget that it's absolutely fine to be midway through finding our thing. Believe me, the world does not need a billion lead singers. It needs scientists who can think like poets, coders who can write like novelists. It needs drummers who can find their heartbeat in a room full of noise. Math has always been my toughest subject at school. It still feels like that recorder squeaking in my ear sometimes. Algebra, to most people, is a logical progression of variables. To me, it's an absolute crime scene. I look at X and then at Y and think, I don't know where either of them went, but I am definitely not the detective that's fit to find them. I'm sure my math teachers have looked at my papers with a little bit of awe at how wrong I can possibly get it. But drumming showed me that at its core, it's simply a division of time, right? I mean, while I was there, sweating, hitting things with sticks, I was accidentally solving for that lost X. A 6/8 time signature sounds like a terrifying fraction until you realize that it's just a groove that makes you want to sway. Drumming helped me become less afraid of those numbers. Actually, quite recently, I entered a competition that required me to build a bridge entirely out of dry pasta. The math over here, it wasn't a chore. It was a high-stake puzzle. I needed physics to understand the tension, geometry to design the arches. It needed a monk's patience and an architect's imagination to glue each individual strand and somehow make the whole thing hold some weight. When that bridge stood its ground, I walked away with 2 awards. I received a big note of appreciation from my previous math teacher, and that was my biggest redemption. I surely hadn't become a genius overnight. No way, no. I had just found a different way to apply that same correct logic. As Albert Einstein once said, mathematics purely is the poetry of logical ideas. I wasn't necessarily failing at the poetry. I was just mixing up the spellings. And this applies to absolutely each and every one of us here. Think about that one science project that ended up in a puddle of baking soda and vinegar. Or that one sports team we joined, just to realize you'd rather be their mascot than actually play. Or that one YouTube channel you have that has exactly 3 subscribers, out of which one's your mom. These aren't failures, these are filters. To anyone in this room who feels average, I want you to know that you are not. You might just be playing the wrong instrument. If you're midway through 3 hobbies and feel like a total quitter, think about it like this. You're actually an explorer. And let's not forget, the recorder phase, it may return. We may feel squeaky and awkward again, at another time, at another setting. And it's important to remind ourselves then to not judge our worth by someone else's tempo. I'm a drummer. I'm loud, I'm high energy, and I finally found the room where I fit in. And I ask of you too to stop trying to be the perfect version of someone else. Find your bridge, find your rhythm, and when you do, you make sure you play it loud. Thank you.